Hey everyone, I made a free-to-play tier list today. I posted on Twitter where I go through a bunch of different archetypes and their strength and their sort of free-to-play friendliness. You can see a quick picture of it here, but also I have a link to it in the description below. I wanted to go over the most free-to-play friendly decks from my tier list. Only one of these decks would I consider sort of a top tier deck for the competitive meta, but they're all really good decks for, I think, beginner players who are on a budget. A lot of times when you're getting started and you're not really ready to maybe invest financially, you just want to get a deck and get some wins. These are all really good options. So first I'm going to go with Treant Druid. I put in tier 2. For my free-to-play friendly list, this deck I think comes in at 1400 dust, so absurdly cheap. You can craft it all, so if you have some cards that are ready from this, maybe you've got a small collection, this might be like a 200 dust investment, something ridiculously small. Very cheap deck. Basically swarm the board. You can cheat out some mana with Blood Trance, get a Soul of the Forest off, big cultivation, hit in the face, easy. Very easy to win with this deck. And a lot of players for low levels who don't know how to deal with you overwhelming with tempo will lose very easily. So very solid deck to get to legend with. I see players playing this at top 1000 legend. It's less common than its Drum Druid counterpart, but this is a deck that isn't just a deck for the beginners. It's a deck for all ranks. I'd say at the top 50 legend is going to get sort of taper off. But that being said, it's a good deck at all different ranks. Next, we got my number 2 choice, which is Drum Druid. You have a little more budget. Mainly the big legendary you need is Topior for this list. You could cut Topior, but you're going to not be able to beat control decks very reliably. But you could cut Topior for something else, like a lot of lists run the Kiri. Chosen of Elune. You could also cut Astrolord for Kiri Chosen Elune. One of the top lists doesn't run Astrolord, it's this, and this is a card that you get for free from the court set. So if you don't have Astrolord, cut this. Topior, much more needed in the lit deck list, a card you don't want to cut nearly as much. But if you see my video on it, I did make a video on this exact list. Try to get your big drum circle off, make a big board, kill them in the face. All you need to make is one big board and they die often if they're not a deck that runs a board clear. So because your stats development is so freaking efficient and all your minions have taunt. So really top tier deck right now, and very cheap. And if you don't run Astrolord, it's even cheaper. So like I said, the one expensive thing of this deck with Legendary is the Topior that you do really want. But like I said, you don't even need Astrolord. It's one of the weaker cards in the deck, and you could easily replace Astrolord with Kiri. Next, we've got Undead Priest. I've included this one. This is a more high budget version, but I will tell you the switch to the low budget version because because the problem with the low budget version is it doesn't run any new cards. So really, we're running just an old Undead Priest list, but with Astrolord and Amanthul. But if you're on a budget and you wish to cut those, you can run the Undead minion. Let me find it. Bone Flinger. You could also run Amalgams as well, but Bone Flinger I think might be the better choice anyways, and it is the more budget friendly. So cut Amanthul, cut Astrolord if you're on a budget, but these are both cards that are worth it if you have them. You could see, if you notice, Astrolord kind of gets in every deck. So if there's one safe craft in Hearthstone, right now Astrolord has stood the test of time. It's in so many decks, but that being said, you don't need them. You can cut that for Bone Flinger and be a very high, strong win rate deck. I looked at the win rate of both of these, and they're both around the same. You're at Diamond through Legend. You're not losing much by cutting these. But that being said, Amanthul has good stats itself. Moving some stuff, getting some value can give you kind of that late game edge. So you don't necessarily have to win with the pure aggro push. You can kind of switch game plans and just start pinging down and make the game go longer. So there's basically some cool things you can do with Amanthul, and it's fun to play Titan. So, but if you don't have them, you don't need them. Next, we've got Mech Paladin. This is a deck that I think is a deck that's great at bronze, and then it gets worse and worse as you get. Still good at diamond, but once you get towards the top of diamond, you're going to struggle to get the legend with this deck. But if you just want to get diamond, this is your choice. It's super cheap. I've created this very budget one. I think this one's 2600 dust in total. Very cheap. If you have some fancier legendaries, one you can cut the Hand of Dolls for these 2 cards that will make the deck a little bit better. You can run Magathon, Beta Music, and you can run the 7-drop Leviathan. These are both sort of high budget replacements for Hand of Adal, but your win rate really isn't going to change much anyways. So both of those are good switches for Hand of Adals, which makes, if you cut those, it makes your radar detector a little more consistent because you don't have to spell. On Magatha, because you're mostly minions, she's quite good. So those are the changes you can if you want to make it a little more high budget, but you don't need to. Amazing deck at the low ranks. So if you're a beginner player and you want to roll over some people until you get to the the diamond rank, this is a great deck, incredibly cheap. And finally, we got Frost Death Knight. This card runs a lot of cards from the sort of the core set and the Path to Arthas. So if you've gotten the Path of Arthas, let me see something of like Oversee. Is this, I believe? Yeah, so you have things at the core. So even though this does have legendaries, a lot of them are cards that you get automatically anyways. I believe, let's see, Pazic. Yeah, Pazic is uncraftable anyway. So there's a lot of legendaries in this deck. Astrolore, once again, one of the only cards that is uncraftable. And if you want to make but you can see there's no new cards in this list, which makes it a little less fun. So if you want to put Primus in, I've seen some lists with Primus, but it's budget friendly. So this is a little bit of boring old list, but it's still a good list to get to Legend with. So but not as good as some of the other ones I said earlier. So these are all low budget decks that you can, low budget to free to play decks that you can get to Legend with. Mech Paladin, I think, is the hardest one to get to Legend with. You're much likely going to get a Diamond with, but all of them are good decks. So if you're on a budget, you're trying, you don't want to spend a lot of dust, you're trying to feel out the game, these are great choices. So I got the deck codes and links below, so go try them out. Let me know what you think. Like I said, if you have a little bit more experience and a tiny enough budget to craft Topior, I think Drum Druid is my #1 choice. But if you're on a crazy budget, I'd say Treant Druid is my #1 choice. So Druid takes the cake on both of my top choices, but the other ones I mentioned are good too. So anyways, I hope you guys found this helpful. I'll see you on the ladder.